A guy got big mad for no reason and berated a Walmart employee while he was wearing his work uniform. So I decided to pay his boss a visit tomorrow to discuss his employee's behavior. I went into my local Walmart tonight for a quick grocery trip to pick up some stuff I was low on. Quick in and out trip, 15 minutes at most. It's sad to say it didn't end up being a fast trip because I was stuck behind a boomer who wanted to cause a scene when I arrived at checkout. The guy in front of me was with his wife, who were arguing loudly about God knows what. They had a substantial amount of stuff on the belt, including a few large bottles of various alcohols. When the boomer scanned his way back to the bottles of alcohol, he froze and began searching around for an associate, who I presume he wanted to come and scan his ID. The problem was that he didn't scan any of the bottles. He just locked up and stared directly at a girl who was busy monitoring the self-checkout registers the next aisle over. After about 30 to 45 seconds of not scanning anything, he loudly shouted, "Excuse me," in his most condescending tone, followed by, "Can you come and scan my effing ID, please?" His tactic worked, as the employee in question immediately whipped around and walked over. He was doing that typical arms crossed bullshot, looking like everything was a giant inconvenience. And I will note, homie still hadn't scanned a single bottle of alcohol yet. The boomer began to lay into her when this young woman was in speaking range. It makes me real sick to see workers just standing around when they're on the clock doing nothing when people like me have schedules to keep. "Can you do your effing job, please, and scan my ID?" "Excuse me?" she responded. "You effing heard me. Get off your goddamn phone and scan my card so I can get the hell out of here." Now, I would like to note a few things about this interaction up to this point. First, this individual was still in a work outfit, a mechanic's onesie for a local mom and pop tire company that I won't name here, but one in which I know the owner pretty well. He's a family friend. Second, he was still wearing his name tag. Because of this, I knew how to address him. Eventually, he politely asks the cashier if she will scan his ID, and she flat out tells him, "No, I don't think so. Not after how you've treated me. You can talk with my manager." Good for her. She gets on a walkie and calls for a manager to come to the register the boomer was towering over and briskly walks off towards the customer service counter at the front of the store. The boomer starts loudly hollering about how this is all bullshit, and he's just expressing his First Amendment rights. It was at this point where I actually found some balls and decided to give my opinion, unsolicited, just so this guy could get an outside perspective on how much of a jackass he was being. "Excuse me, but the First Amendment doesn't protect you from looking like a douchebag to random strangers in Walmart when you treat other people like poop." The guy wheeled around and locked eyes with me. "What did you just say to me?" I smirked and said, "Oh, hard of hearing, are we?" "I'm pretty sure you heard what I said." The guy visibly shook on the spot. "This isn't any of your effing business, so butt out," I said. "I disagree. When I see someone acting like an asshole for no good reason, I make it a point to speak up. You seem to think that by stating that you have a First Amendment right, you can say whatever the hell you want without consequence, but that isn't how it works, sir. First Amendment protects you from government overreach for speaking your mind, but it doesn't protect you from the consequences you face from others for your words or your opinions," he said. "That's beside the point. I'm sick and effing tired of these minorities doing nothing and getting a paycheck for it," he responded rather loudly, unaware that quite a few people were staring at this point. The manager showed up, and he started in on how he scanned his alcohol and that the associate in question was very rude to him and refused to serve him. He started stating that she told him he wouldn't get help because he was white when I interjected again. "Ma'am, that is not what happened. This gentleman didn't even scan any of his alcohol and immediately started shouting down at your employee, just for the sake of being upset. He was rude, unpleasant, and even made unnecessary racial comments." He wheeled around at me again and yelled, "Shut the F up and mind your business," before going on the tirade again. "You know, this is very unfair of you." I started again. "You've put that poor girl in an unwinnable situation. Now that you've raised this untrue complaint, her manager will have to speak with her even though she hasn't done anything wrong. Does that sound fair to you, Eric?" I don't think he realized he was still in uniform because he looked at me, puzzled at how I knew his name. "How would you feel if someone came into your place of business and told John a bunch of bullshit about how you were treating them unfairly when you knew perfectly well that it was a lie? Or even better, how would your boss react if he knew you were acting like this while still in uniform with his place of business plastered all over your chest?" When he heard me say the name of his boss, he stopped cold. "Yes, Eric, I know John very well and think I might visit him tomorrow. That is unless you apologize to that girl for being a lying prick instead." The guy then became very rushed and suddenly in a colossal hurry. He muttered something about people not minding their own business, to which I replied, "I'm just expressing my First Amendment rights." SpongeBob's sarcastic voice and all. He scanned one of the bottles and had the manager scan his ID. His wife started in about how I better not show up to his office tomorrow, something directed at me, but I wasn't paying her any attention and brushed her off. I was just staring at Eric and watching him bag. Eventually, he got all of his stuff put in his basket and marched out, but he didn't apologize to the manager or the employee and gave me a hearty "Go F yourself, asshole," as he flipped me off. I scanned my groceries and paid for my merchandise, but I was smiling from ear to ear. Afterward, I made it a point to speak with the manager and the employee in the customer service center. As expected, the manager conversed with the employee about that customer, and she thanked me for speaking up. It'd be a cold day in hell before I let a boomer bully an employee and then weasel his way into a victim role with management. Not on my watch. So now my next play is to show up to this tire shop tomorrow. I hope Eric is there. I hope he's the opener. I'm going to walk in and just smile at him, ask to see his manager. Then I think I'm going to go in and just weave the nicest story about how he treated the employees at Walmart, so much so that I was compelled to stop in and tell his boss that he has a real winner on his hands and that I'm a customer for life now. Maybe that way, he might get a message.